Today I want to speak about why. Why does God speak? So let's look at the lives of Abram, David, Paul. In Genesis 12, God said, I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And Abram was 75 years old. Okay? Genesis 21 verse 5. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. 25 years have passed. So we can go to David. Samuel anointed David as a king, and David had a journey, and he had to flee for his life several times because of Saul. And after 10-11 years, he ascended the throne. Paul, on his road to Damascus, he encountered Jesus, and Ananias went to him, and he said to him that God has anointed and appointed you to preach to the Gentiles. But it was about 11 years later when he went on his first mission trip. So why do we see this delay when we know what was God's intention and his purpose? That was already revealed, but it only came to fruition much later. Henry Blackaby says it's about character, and I agree with him. So God is not on two minds. He knows what he's doing, and he has the bigger picture in mind. So when you get an assignment, it doesn't mean you're ready for that assignment. You may have a clear vision of what God has called you to do, but it doesn't mean you're ready to do it. And we can go to many testimonies of people that were given an assignment, and then God started preparing them for that assignment. In South Africa, the farmer, Angus Buchan, had to plant potatoes in a drought. So I'm going to use the example Henry Blackaby uses in his book. If a pastor went to seminary or to Bible school or whatever you would call it, and he gets called to a little church where he actually has to work a second job to sustain himself, he may think, this can't be from God. I am qualified, I've done so much training, I can't waste my life. But God's perspective is very, very different. If you listen to his response, is it a God-centered response or is it a self-centered response? And that's the key. So this doesn't mean that every single time that something crosses your path, that you have to assume it is God and that you have to do it. Remember, it's about the relationship. So I found it so beautiful. Graham Cook, he says that when he's invited somewhere, he asks God, do I have an assignment? If he doesn't hear from God that he has an assignment there, he doesn't accept the invitation. And I think many of us, including me, don't operate in that way. We make our own decisions to our own detriment. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is God's right to interrupt you. And this is very relevant to me when I was homeschooling. God called me to homeschool my children. It was not what I wanted to do. I even got angry when people called it my calling. And I seriously had to learn to be interrupted because they were interrupting me all the time. They were when you are a homeschooler of 4 children, free time is a luxury you don't really have, and especially private free time. And that was a journey for God to teach me, because I've been very self-centered and self-focused, and God had to work on that and show me that my agenda may be not that important. And I've learned to go with the flow. Whatever the day brought, the children's needs, and I went with the flow. God prepared me. He prepared my heart to be obedient, to be interrupted by Him with whatever He wants me to be interrupted with. So if you are planning to go to the mall, or you have a sport event that you want to, even if when you have tickets, and God confronts you with something else He wants you to do, what is your response? Are you willing to lay down what your plans were and get on His bus? Or are you going to try and fit His plans with yours? Or do His after you have finished yours? So we go back again to who's on the throne, and is it a God-centered life? If I'm on an aeroplane and I feel like having my private space, and the person next to me is highlighted by God and starts a conversation with me and are obviously asking spiritual questions, are you going to ignore it? Are you going to step in where God is busy? Let's look at Matthew 25. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each one according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents, here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents, here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. So a talent, it was a monetary unit worth about 20 years' wage for a labourer. So it was a lot of money. I'm not going to try and explain the whole passage, but I want the principles to stand out. And that is that when we are faithful with little, God entrusts more to us. And as we are faithful with little, our character develops. We have to persevere. So if we are not willing to be faithful in a little, God cannot entrust more to us. So this is about everything. It's about money. It's about time. It's about skill and talent. We are stewards of that, and we have to be faithful. So, to end this session, I want you to think about what God is saying to you, and understand that He speaks with a purpose. So whatever God is saying to you, He has a bigger picture in mind, and He speaks for a purpose. So for me, looking back, I look at homeschooling and I can see how God has developed my character through it. And I look at my children and I'm so grateful that I homeschooled. I look at our relationships and it's a blessing. So whatever assignment God's giving you, just remember that He has the bigger picture and He's on His way somewhere with you. And it's not about you. Yes, it is to let you know how much He loves you. It is to encourage you. But there's much more at stake. Much more. Otherwise He would not have been God. He has a massive picture in mind. And your life is a part of it. Just a part of it. But, excitingly, He says to the servants, the master, in the parable, come and experience the joy with me. So God is involved in the process of your life and what He is accomplishing. And working with Him results in so much joy, peace and blessing as our lives are transformed to the image of His Son and to His glory. I don't know about you, but I would like my life to be fruitful.